Chris Paul is without a doubt one of the best point guards ever. His floor generalship, playmaking, and intelligence makes him special. He is a future Hall of Famer and has accomplished everything you can think of except for one thing: winning the NBA championship, and that won't happen this year as the Dallas Mavericks whooped the Phoenix Suns in Game 7. In this video, I'll go over Chris Paul's playoff failures, including the 5 series he's blown after taking a 2-0 lead. After 3 years in the league, Chris Paul finally made his playoff debut in 2008, where he led the Hornets to an opening round series win against Dallas. Up next was the San Antonio Spurs. Under Paul's leadership, the Hornets got off to a great start, winning the first 2 games against the Spurs in blowout fashion. This series would eventually go 7 games with the Spurs eking out our Game 7 road win. This was Paul's first time in the playoff, and he did all that he could. There was no shame blowing a 2-0 lead to a Spurs team filled with future Hall of Famers. This was Chris Paul's coming up party in the playoff, and he played well in this series and outshined Tony Parker. For the series, he averaged 23.7 points per game, 10.7 assists, 4.4 rebounds, and shot over 50% from the field. Chris Paul was traded to the Clippers in 2012, and a lot of heartbreaks happened in LA. The second of the blown 2-0 lead came in 2013 against Memphis. Chris gave the Clippers a 2-0 lead after hitting this buzzer beater in Game 2. Then the roof caved in. Memphis went on to win the next 4 games. Blake Griffin, who at the time was a rising star, struggled in this series and was severely outplayed by Zack Randoplh. Griffin suffered ankle injury in this series. Clearly wasn't himself as he only averaged 13.2 points and 5.5 rebounds per game in this series. Chris played well, but without much support from the others, they just couldn't overcome Memphis' toughness and grit. In 2014, the Clippers matched up against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the second round, and after 4 games, the series was tied heading into a pivotal Game 5. With 49 seconds left in Game 5, Chris Paul put the Clippers up 7 with a signature pull-up jumper. Clippers had all the momentum and were in full control. The crowd was silent and stunned, but what would happen next is even more stunning. KD would score the next 5 points, cutting the deficit to 2. Chris had the ball with about 14 seconds left in the game in his own backcourt. All he had to do was hold onto the ball and get fouled. But instead, as Russell Westbrook is reaching in for a foul, CP tried to act like he was shooting a 3, and that backfired. Russ ends up stripping the ball. And to make matters worse, Chris fouled Westbrook on a 3-point attempt. Westbrook made all 3 free throws, giving the Thunder a 1-point lead with 6 seconds left. Chris had one last chance to make up for the mistakes, but instead he lost the ball while driving in the paint in the closing seconds. This is a heartbreaking loss and a disastrous way to end the game, and OKC would snatch their hearts out in Game 6 to win the series. Another one of Chris Paul's infamous playoff blunder came in 2015 against the Houston Rockets. The Clippers had a commanding 3-1 lead on Houston, and in Game 6 on their home court, were up by 19 points midway through the third quarter. The crowd was buzzing. Finally, a conference finals appearance was within sight. The Clippers were playing well. James Harden looked like he was ready for vacation. The Rockets appeared dead. And then, out of nowhere, led by Corey Brewer and Josh Smith of all people, the Rockets stormed back and won the game. Brewer and Smith combined to score 29 points in the fourth quarter. Another heartbreaking loss for Chris, and the Rockets carried all the momentum into Game 7, and it was never in doubt. The third of the 2-0 blown lead came in 2016 against the Portland Trailblazers. The Clippers were huge favorites to win and won the first 2 games convincingly, but the series turned when Chris fractured his hand in Game 4. Chris would miss the remainder of the series. Damian Lillard and McCollum took full advantage of this injury, leading the Blazers to 4 consecutive wins to close out the series. CP missed the last 2 games of this series, so we really can't blame him for the loss, but nevertheless, he was on the team. What a tough 4-year stretch it is for Chris Paul and the Clippers, blowing games and series leads. They probably should have won every series that I mentioned above, but for one reason or another, they just couldn't get over the hump. Last year with the Phoenix Suns, Chris Paul finally broke through and made it to the NBA Finals. For the first time in his career, Paul could smell the championship. Phoenix got up to a great start. They had the Bucks running in circles. Paul and Booker were doing their thing, and after 2 games, Phoenix was halfway there. But little did we know, Game 2 will be their last win in this series. Milwaukee would turn it around and win the next 4 games, breaking the hearts of Phoenix Suns fans. Up to this point, Khris had a fantastic playoff run, but he had an uncharacteristic Game 4 when he only scored 10 points and committed 5 turnovers, including this late turnover which essentially cost him the game. Milwaukee's defense proved to be too much to overcome, and Giannis was incredible in Game 6 to close out the series. This year, Phoenix had a phenomenal regular season, winning a franchise-best 64 games and was the best team all year. The Suns were on a mission to avenge the loss from last year. After squeezing by the Pelicans in the first round, Phoenix matched up against a young Dallas Mavericks team. Again, things got off to a great start, up 2-0. Paul was hooping, doing his thing. Him and Booker even talked some trash to Luka. But then, things took an ugly turn. Khris turned 37 years old on Game 3, and it was almost as if the minute he turned 37, he got old and couldn't play anymore. His game deteriorated, and for the remainder of the series, Khris never looked right. His impact on the game was minimal, and his stats show. In the first 2 games, Khris scored 47 points along with 11 rebounds and 11 assists while only committing 4 turnovers. But from Games 3 to Game 7, he scored 47 points, grabbed 17 rebounds, and dished out 29 assists, but committing 18 turnovers. What stood out the most was his scoring and turnovers. Khris scored 47 points in the final 5 games of that series, the same production he produced in the first 2 games, almost committed double the amount of turnovers from 2 per game to 3.8 per game. Despite all of the stats I just mentioned, what stood out the most is how poorly the Suns played in Game 7. They had no energy and didn't put up a fight. Khris had 1 point at halftime and didn't make his first field goal until close to midway through the 3rd quarter. And at that point, they were down by 40, and the game was basically over. In a wide open field, this was probably Chris Paul's best chance to finally capture that elusive title. They were the deepest and best team all year, but yet another disappointing way to end the season for Khris. With Kawhi Leonard and Jamal Murray coming back next year, Luka getting better by the day, and Klay Thompson another year to knock off the rest, the West looks tough. CP3 is one of the greatest point guards of all time, and winning a ring will certainly validate his spot in the basketball hierarchy. But at this minute, it appears that the championship is slipping away from him. Well, that's all for today. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do me a huge favor by hitting that like button and subscribe. Thank you.